All right, so Tom, you're certainly one of the most trusted voices as far as baseball is concerned. How do you determine when you fill out your ballot? What do you use as the barometers? Okay, this guy gets a check mark next to his name.
Yeah, I like to look at two things. I like to look at a long period of a peak part of someone's career. And by long, I'm not talking about a nice 3 or 4 year period. I really like to see something along the lines of almost a decade, around about 10 years. If it's 8 or 9, I'm not going to draw a hard line in the sand. And I also like to see longevity. I covered a lot of Don Mattingly, for instance, in his career. For a 4 or 5 year period, I thought he was one of the best players in baseball, both offensively and defensively. But his peak just didn't last long enough, and his overall career numbers weren't high enough for me across the board. So for me, I like to see both. Certainly, there are some exceptions. If you have an incredible peak, like say a Pedro Martinez, you don't necessarily have to throw out 250 wins as a pitcher. But in general, those are the two things I look for: peak and longevity.
Tom, how do you feel about voters handing in blank ballots?
Well, obviously, I voted for 9, so I disagree with the fact that you don't see any Hall of Famers on the ballot. But I do respect somebody's choice, and as long as you're able to, as long as you give it proper thought, you're not making a grandstand play. And if you truly believe that no one rises to your level of your definition of a Hall of Famer, well, I honor and respect that, because I've always said this is not an SAT test. There's nothing that you would say is a right Hall of Fame ballot or a wrong Hall of Fame ballot. But as long as you bring proper thought and care and concern to it, and I think the vast majority of voters do that, I respect your vote to be a little bit different than most people.